Welcome back to my channel, Pattern of Good Works. My name is Donna, and today we'll still be in chapter number 7. We'll be utilizing the book, The Specialty Practice of Rehabilitation Nursing, a Core Curriculum, the 8th edition. So on page number 107, we're looking at Medicaid. The topic is Medicaid. So it says Medicaid is the health insurance program for certain individuals and families with low income and resources. It began with the enactment of Title 19 of the Social Security Act of 1965 and provides medical assistance to people and families receiving cash assistance welfare. Medicaid has expanded to cover health care and long-term care services for specific categories of low-income people and expanded further in 2014 for states that opted into the Medicaid expansion to include the majority of people younger than 65 years with an income of up to 133% of the federal poverty level. Wow. It goes on to say that Medicaid is managed by each state through a state agency with oversight from CMS. Remember that. It is financed by a federal state partnership in which the federal government matches state Medicaid spending. So Medicaid is a state program, but funding is a federal state partnership. It goes on to say that Medicaid covers comprehensive services for children. Remember that. It also assists low-income Medicare beneficiaries, individuals referred to as dual eligibles. Medicaid is the largest funding source for coverage of long-term care. People qualify for Medicaid if they meet the financial criteria and belong to one of the groups that are categorically eligible for the program. It says, in addition, eligibility is limited to American citizens and certain lawfully residing immigrants. To be eligible for federal funds, states are required to provide Medicaid coverage for certain mandatory groups. The mandatory groups meet certain eligibility requirements in the state's Aid to Families with Dependent Children plan. Most older adults and people with disabilities who receive supplemental security income, better known as SSI. Children younger than 6 years and pregnant women whose family income is at or below 133% of the federal poverty level, and children ages 6 to 18 years living below the 100% of the federal poverty level. So who are some of the other categorically needy groups or mandatory groups? The examples are listed. So these are the examples of the optional groups that states can cover as categorically needy and for which they will receive federal matching funds under the Medicaid program. So that includes pregnant women, it includes children and parents with incomes that exceed the mandatory thresholds. It can be also older adults and people who are disabled and earn up to 100% of the federal poverty level. It could also be working disabled people who earn up to 250% of the federal poverty level. It also could be individuals residing in nursing facilities with incomes below 300% of the SSI standard. And it also can be people who would be eligible if institutionalized, but who are receiving care under home and community-based service waivers. And lastly, medically needy people who cannot meet the financial criteria but have a high medical expenses relative to their incomes and who belong to one of the categorically eligible groups. So on page 108, we're going to take a look at the State Children Health Insurance Program, better known as CHIP. CHIP stands for Children's Health Insurance Program. And this program was enacted for families with incomes too high to qualify for Medicaid, but too low for them to qualify or afford private health insurance. CHIP is again jointly financed by the state and federal government. States are given broad flexibility in tailoring programs to meet their own circumstances and can create or expand their own separate insurance programs. They can expand Medicaid or combine both approaches. States can set eligibility criteria for age, income, resources, and residency within broad federal guidelines. So on page 108, we're going to take a look at workers' compensation. Workers' compensation programs are government sponsored and employee finance systems for compensating employees who incur an injury or illness in connection with their employment. It goes on to say that benefits provided include medical care, disability payments, rehabilitation services, survivor benefits in some cases, and funeral expenses. Each state, plus the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, designates an agency to administer the program. Eligibility includes workers who are disabled by injury or families of a worker whose death arose out of and during the course of employment. Coverage includes medical care related to compensable injury and income benefits through private commercial insurance companies. Self-insurance, which it says corporations that are able to carry the risk, state funds, and state second injury funds. Medical care provisions include treatment and rehabilitative programs for work-related injuries. There is either full reimbursement or in certain states reimbursement according to a medical fee guide. A life care plan is created to ensure that the client receives consistent, comprehensive, cost-effective care from current and future caregivers, and vocational rehabilitation benefits, including job retraining, education, and job placement, are offered in most states. Lastly, for private health insurance, employers and other organizations can purchase private health insurance on behalf of a group of individuals. Purchasing groups often negotiate coverage, so benefits vary by group. Group members, which can be employees, contribute to the insurance premium. That's what I do. I contribute to my insurance premium. Alternatively, an individual can purchase private health insurance through a state marketplace. There are several types of health insurance and service plans, and they were reasonably distinct until the late 1980s. Since that time, the differences between traditional forms of health insurance, which can be, for example, an indemnity plan, and managed care plans have decreased substantially. So I'm going to share with you the continuum of managed care. So on that continuum, you will see managed indemnity, service plans, PPOs, point of service HMOs, and closed panel HMOs. So this week we took a look at Medicaid, and we found that it was Title 19, the enactment of Title 19 from the Social Security Act of 1965 that has allowed us to have Medicaid. And Medicaid is serving low income and or low resources individuals. It also is managed by CMS, and there is some component of long-term care coverage in Medicaid. We also looked at the CHIP program, and the CHIP program, which stands for Children's Health Insurance Program, is for families with income that's too high to qualify for Medicaid, but too low to qualify for private health insurance. We also looked at workers' compensation, and workers' compensation is for individuals or workers injured in the course of employment. So if you were at, a concert and you fell, that unless you were working security at the concert, that's not workman's comp. We also lastly looked at private health insurance, and we know private health insurance is all about the policies. So we want to thank you again for coming along this leg of the journey. We want to wish you well, and I'm encouraging you to like, comment, and subscribe. We hope to see you next week, God's willing. You be well. Take care. Bye bye.